let's see. This is Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-ray. I will be your alternate net control this evening. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and start with low power short time check-ins. That's the place to start, so we'll do exactly that. If you are low power short time, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Low power short time only.
November 5 Sierra, Quebec Alpha. Ron, beautiful downtown Dallas. Good to hear you on the air, Tom. I'm just going to lurk. N5SQA.
This is WV4MFI. Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, Dallas, low power, USC 10, Notre Dame, what's this Notre Dame for? Notre Dame 24.
W5 BLT, Whiskey 5, Bravo, Lima, Tango, Bill, Garland.
All right, very good. We got 3 there. We've got N5SQA, that's Ron, he's in Dallas. WP4MFI, Ted in Dallas. Thank you for the update on Notre Dame. And W5BLT, Bill in Garland. All right, any other low power short time, please come now. All right, let's go ahead and go to regular check-ins, general check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is Kilo India 5 Gulf Romeo Hotel, Melissa, Northeast Dallas.
Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey J, near Weatherford.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Kilo Foxtrot 5 Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Ranch.
This is Kilo 5 Kilo Tango X-ray, Kelly in Quinlan.
Kilo India 5, Kilo Tango Zulu, Philip, White Rock Creek.
November 5 Bravo Bravo. Bill in Irving.
This is Alpha Alpha 5 Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
All right, let me go ahead and get those folks checked in. I got KI5GRH, that's Melissa in Dallas, KG5BZWJ near Weatherford, NT5TM, Tony in Dallas, K5ZBL, Mr. Bill, Farmers Branch, K5KTX, Miss Kelly in Quinlan, KI5KTZ, that's Philip in White Rock Creek, he says, N5BB, Bill in Irving, AA Robert in Richardson. Additional check-ins, please come now.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite.
Kilo India 5, Mike Kilo Kilo, Donald in Flower Mound.
This is
Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
All right, we picked up 3 more. There was a double, so if you don't hear your call, I'll get you on this next round. KI5JHA, that's Chaz in Mesquite. KI5JJ, Chaz in Mesquite. KI5MKK, that's Don in Flower Mound. KG5 Whiskey Victor Lima, that's James in Carrollton. Additional check-ins, please come down.
Good evening, this is Alpha Golf 9 Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas.
All right, we picked one more. I've got one more. I've got AG9SG, that's Antonio in Dallas. I'll go ahead and move over to Echolink. There may be some folks, mostly everybody's checked in there, but not everybody. If you're over on Echolink and would like to join us, please come out now with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from.
This is N5IMS, JJ in Carrollton.
All right, we picked up one more. That's N5IMS, JJ in Carrollton. I'll go ahead and open it up to anyone who would like to check in any mode. Please come now with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo India 5, Juliet Charlie Mike, Thomas and Euless.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay in Mesquite.
Okay, we picked up 2 more. The first call, my pen got stuck. I got Kilo India 5, Juliet, I think it was question mark Mike, and then I completely froze on you. Can you give me your full call again? Your name and where you're transmitting from.
Affirmative, this is Kilo India 5, Juliet Charlie Mike. This is Thomas in Euless, Texas.
That's it, KI5JCM, Thomas and Euless. Sorry, that was not your fault, that was mine. N5OF, that's Clay in Mesquite. Got you all checked in. All right, let's see here. I think I'm going to call it with that right now. I'll give you a count a little later, but I think that's it for the check-ins for now, so I'll send it back to Net Control. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you very much, Tom, and welcome to all who have checked in on Skynet. All right, let's go ahead and get started with general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. An announcement for the net, please come now.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
PM Tony, our resident Skylon, what announcements do you have for us this evening?
By your command. I'd like to remind everyone that this is not the last net of the evening. We do have a lot of awesome stuff coming up on this net, but at 10:30 or so, we'll be having the Afterglow movie discussion featuring the Aliens Universe prequel, Prometheus, which I did see a long time ago and will be interested to hear your thoughts on. We also have some fun things coming up that you can do in person. You can help support the Dallas YMCA Turkey Trot on Thanksgiving morning, which is a wonderful Dallas Radio Club tradition, and the Dallas White Rock Marathon. I guess they call it the Dallas BMW Marathon, but I sure love White Rock Lake and I don't drive a BMW, so I like to think of it as the White Rock Marathon still. You can find out more information about both of those wonderful public service events. Turkey Trot is a great first event, and the marathon is a great second event if you're just getting started. You can find out more information at w5fc.org. And finally, just a strange off-the-wall item. Your radio may not go down this slow, but maybe you have a software-defined radio you can stick into a USB port. Maybe you're staying up late tonight and you can run a long wire to the input of your computer sound card. There's going to be a transmission from the long-wave station SAQ, Sierra Alpha Quebec, tomorrow morning. They're going to start tuning up at about 9:30 in the morning, and they hope to do their main transmission at about 10 a.m. our time. It's at 17.2 kilohertz. Yes, that's lower in frequency than a dog whistle. 17.2 kilohertz. I'm actually studying up on how to get my software-defined receiver and SDR Sharp working to receive that right now. So have a look at arrl.org/news, arrl.org/news, and look for that story about SAQ Sierra Alpha Quebec. It's just a strange and unusual receiving opportunity that I want to mention to everyone so they can give it a try. This is November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Thank you very much, Tony. Anyone else have any announcements? If so, please come now with your call sign. Hearing any, so I'll go ahead with a few announcements of my own. AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time. You'll need Echolink installed and you registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. The Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.880 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9. Tom N5HYP is the net control. All are welcome to check in. First Tuesday of the month is the DARC Club Night, so there's no AMSAT East on that night. Plus AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.140 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. DARC hosts Monday night nets. First Monday of the month is Ham Fixin's Net. This net is all about recipes and food, so if you have a recipe to share, want to pick up some new recipes, or have a question or anecdote about food, join us for Ham Fixin's Net. Second Monday of the month is MCOM 101, Emergency Communications. Back on the third Monday for a second helping of Ham Fixin's Net. And fourth Monday of the month is Geek Net. If there's ever a fifth Monday, it's a surprise net. If we told you what it was, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. As mentioned, Tuesdays, AMSAT East at 8 p.m., Q&A, info, and news for amateur satellites. Fridays is Search City Simulation, summer hours, 8 p.m. Learn about emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators. Melissa, KI5GRH, is usually the next control. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday. Search City, all are welcome. And Saturdays is the Night of Nets. with TechNet from 7 to 8 p.m. And, of course, at 9 p.m., Skynet. And as Tony mentioned, following Skynet at 10:30 is the Afterglow Movie Net. We select a movie at the end of we watch it during the week, and then we come the following Saturday at 10:30 to discuss the movie. We go through plot, characterization, special effects, music, and other interesting notes and trivia about the movie. First and third Sundays, Dallas Amateur Radio has their meeting on the air. There's the ARRL Net, National Traffic System Training Net, every night at 6:30 p.m. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. As I mentioned, after Skynet at 10:30 p.m., there's the Afterglow Movie Net. So this time I'll turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll give us tonight's Afterglow info.
Thank you, Miss Billy. This is KE5ICX. I pride myself on the absolute accuracy with which I give my synopses, so here you go. The alien creatures stood on the banks of a river, a waterfall pouring its contents into the reservoir below. He seemed concerned and enthralled at the same time. He opened his lunch thermos and drank its contents. Suddenly, realizing he just drank caffeinated coffee rather than the decaffeinated he was expecting, the creature flung itself over the cliff and onto the rock bed below. Thus ended mankind's most primordial beginnings with a simple mistake of fluid misidentification. Everyone started leaving the theater, but the concession stand manager abruptly stormed in, explaining, The movie isn't over. Get back in there. There's another 2 hours of intellectual mumbo-jumbo to come. They'll explain the whole alien origin story. Like most concession stand managers, he just lied. He knew the film wouldn't explain jack about those other more famous movies, and he was counting on moviegoers to stumble out the exits and into the lobby both confused and hungry when subjected to the confusing and contradictory storyline. He made extra popcorn just for the occasion. The real mystery wasn't the origin of the engineers, but how much abuse an average audience member could take before emptying their collective pockets of entertainment money in the futile effort to repair family and dating relationships. Join us for the prequel movie, Prometheus. That's tonight at 10:30 p.m. Back to net control.
Thanks very much, Tom. And you can keep up with all DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. At this time, we'll talk about Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look scope. There's someone on frequency that would like to give information about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. Please come now with your call sign.
Sure, I'd love to do that. KF5JHA.
Hi, JHA. Chaz, good evening. What information do you have for us this evening?
Thank you, KF5PDS. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, November the 19th. It's usually the fourth Friday, but in November it's the Friday before Thanksgiving, which is November the 19th. It'll be held at 7:30. It'll be a meeting held on Zoom. It's going to feature a swap meet. Now, we did this a year ago. I can't remember the details about how to do that, but in person, you'd bring in your used or slightly used astronomical gear and sell it to other members. So this is going to be an interesting meeting. Task Club members will receive an email link to the Zoom meeting in advance of the meeting. Now, the Saturday night public observing sessions have been placed on hold. We had a couple of them a couple of months ago, but then because of COVID increase, we put them back on hold again. One of the reasons that Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights was so that there was an opportunity for live reports coming from the TASS public observing sessions that are also held on Saturday nights. So, well, hopefully that'll resume soon. Go to the TASS website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. Now, my public comment about, let's see now, the description of the Afterglow movie. I think the Afterglow movie is a description is about as accurate as the brand of flights out of DFW that are currently going on. I don't know why I picked that. Maybe it's because of the T-shirt that Tom is wearing on YouTube video. Back to that control, KF5JHA.
Thanks very much, Chaz. And you can keep up with all the Texas Astronomical Society events on their calendar and website if you go to www.texasastro.org. So I understand from last night's meeting, Brother Guy Consolmagno, our speaker, he's always a wonderful speaker to listen to. Did anybody attend the meeting, want to give a report on last night's meeting with Brother Guy? If so, please come now with your call sign. Hearing anyone, so we'll move on to our next segment, National Space Society events and activities. At this time, I'll turn the net over to Bill N5BB. If you'll give us information about the National Space Society. Bill, are you there? This is to N5BB from KF5PDS.
Yes, this is N5BB. I am the Membership Director of the National Space Society, North Texas Chapter. If you have any questions about National Space Society or a local chapter, you can send me an email at n5bb@arrl.net or space@byrom.net, space@byrom.net. The next meeting of the National Space Society will be on the second Sunday afternoon of November 14th. It will most likely be a virtual meeting, but I don't know for sure at this time. We're having very few events because of the COVID increased outbreak, but we did have one event in person, which was 2 weeks ago for National Space Week at the Irving Public Library, South Library. That's all I've got now in 5BB.
Thanks very much, Bill. The National Space Society of North Texas also has an active Facebook page. Just type in National Space Society of North Texas into the search box and request access. You'll receive meeting reminders and club activities. This is KF5CDS, Billy, your net control for discussion of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is discussion topic of the evening. So my topic tonight is Astronomical League Observing Program. Astronomical League objective is to promote the science of astronomy by fostering astronomical education, by providing incentives for astronomical observation and research, and by assisting communication among amateur astronomical societies. Their website is astroleague.org. Astronomical League is composed of over 240 local amateur astronomical societies from all across the United States. Organizations, along with their members at large, patrons, and supporting members, form one of the largest amateur astronomical organizations in the world. The basic goal is to encourage an interest in astronomy, and especially amateur astronomy, throughout America. Many people have seen pictures of other planets in our solar system craft, but have no idea that they too can see these objects with a telescope. The Astronomical League wants people to get access to telescopes, whether it is through their local astronomical society, school, or their own instruments, and use them to view the beauty in the heavens. The mission of the Astronomical League is clearly stated in the masthead of their website, astroleague.org. Promote the science of astronomy. The major benefit of belonging to the Astronomical League is receiving the quarterly newsletter, The Reflector, which keeps you in touch with amateur activities all over the country. The chance to meet people you read about there occurs during the National Convention or at one of the 10 regional conventions that the Astronomical League sponsors. The easiest way to become a part of the Astronomical League is to join one of the member societies close to you, of which Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas is a member society. A benefit of membership in this society is membership in the Astronomical League, and part of your society dues goes to pay for your reflector subscription. Application for a new member society is located on their website. If it's not convenient for you to join one of the astronomical societies, you might consider becoming a member at large. Some interesting information about their logo. The Astronomical League logo was designed in 1952 by James H. Carl of Portland, Oregon. Mr. Carl was an instructor of astronomy at Lewis and Clark College in Portland. He was League secretary starting in 1951. About the design, he says, this design has been developed in an endeavor to present at first glance its meaning and association with astronomy as represented by the many amateur societies which comprise the League. These societies devote their attention to several branches of science, and my design depicts the more important ones. Lunar is shown by the setting sun. Lunar is represented by the crescent moon, while sparkling Venus, just above the moon, pays tribute to the planets. The streak of the meteor just below the word League tells of another interesting branch followed by many. The vastness of the wide expanse of a night sky brings in the deep sky wonders to which so many observing hours, the constellation of Ursa Major and Cassiopeia, clearly shown in the margin. There is a large, important section of members of our societies who follow the cult of the telescope and instrument maker. It would be a fatal omission to forget them, so there is shown what is obviously an amateur observatory, the size of it being indicated by the size of the door. Finally, the words comprising our official name, Astronomical League, stands out, dominating the design in a pleasing form. The design is only two colors, blue and white, which is again appropriate to the theme, and it is confined within a circle, suitable for stationery or lapel pin. This is from the Yakima, Washington Amateur Astronomers Newsletter, The Observer, Volume 13, Number 5, May 1952. Astronomical League has many observing programs, and on their website at astroleague.org, you can find a list of observing programs by experience level of the observer. They have the list broken out in novice, intermediate, and advanced. Tonight, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a sampling of some of the types of programs that the Astro League has to offer in each of the categories. I find particularly interesting for novice observers is Sky Puppy Observing Program. The vast majority of observing programs are geared to beginning and advanced field observers. The Sky Puppy's Observing Program is designed just for the younger observer. This means that the observer must be 10 years or younger. The purpose of the Sky Puppies Observing Program is to familiarize young observers with the night sky and whet their appetite to eventually graduate from a Sky Puppy to an experienced observer in additional Astronomical League observing programs. This process is usually begun when a parent takes their child along observing trips. Fortunately, many of observing programs are too abstract, even esoteric, to hold the attention of the younger observer. Many observing parents can't justify the expense of the second telescope necessary for the child to use when both parent and child are observing together. The Sky Puppies Observing Program was created to fill just that gap. To fulfill the goals of this observing program, Puppies pin and certificate, the young observer must use only their eyes, a pair of inexpensive binoculars, pencil and paper, and charts or a planisphere. A Sky Puppy will learn the rudiments of observing, how to read a chart or planisphere, and how to find and identify constellations, stars, and deep sky objects. The Novice Program is the Constellation Hunter Observing Program, Novice. There is also one for Shuttle. Certification is available to members of the Astronomical League, either through their local astronomical society or members at large. To qualify for the Constellation Hunter certificates and pins, observe and sketch all of the constellations that are included on the checklist. It is required other than a planisphere and reference information of the names of major stars and constellation boundaries. Binoculars, while not required, will give you a deeper look into the star fields that you sketch. Constellation, you need to provide date and time, either local or universal time, latitude and longitude of observation, constellation name, sky conditions, transparency, and seeing of all stars that were visible to the unaided eye, out to the limits of the constellation's boundary. Named stars should be identified on the sky. Said there was also a Constellation Hunter Observing Program for skies. The intermediate observers, there are several programs. Of interest is an Analemma Observing Program. About everyone knows that the sun's altitude at culmination, the height of the observer's horizon, varies throughout the year, higher in the summer and lower in the winter. However, outside of navigators, cartographers, and astronomers, it is not commonly realized that the sun's apparent angular velocity also varies. Participants in the Analemma Observing Program will monitor the sun's motion throughout the year and note changes in the sun's position, in altitude, and azimuth. They will then, with only to their analemma and observing apparatus, calculate their observing latitude and the tilt of the Earth's axis, sketch or plot the path of the sun on the celestial sphere, calculate the equation of time, and calculate the eccentricity of the Earth. Important ones that are interesting are the Messier Observing Program. Every amateur astronomer begins to be aware of the Messier Catalog as soon as he or she opens their first. The novice is sure to find some spectacular object pictured and with its Messier number, the universal abbreviation M. Of the myriads of star clusters and nebulae scattered over the sky, only about 100, perhaps 110 at most, can claim membership for this celebrated list. However, this happens to include most, but not quite all, of the finest of these objects observable from mid-northern latitudes. The first step to this observing is 70 Messier objects, and keeping a record of your observations, date and time, latitude, longitude, seeing and transparency, aperture size of the telescope, power used, and a description of the Messier object as it appears in the IT. certificate at that level. And then if you observe all 110, then you qualify for a pin. On this program, on the Messier program, I have the 70 certificate. Novice one that I happened to skip over and didn't mean to is the Lunar Observing Program, and this is one that I've completed as well. Lunar Binocular Certification and Lunar Certifications. To qualify for the AL's Lunar Observing Program certificate and pin, observe 100 features on the moon. These 100 features are broken down into 3 groups: 18 naked eye, 46 binocular, and 36 telescopic features. Any pair of binoculars and any telescope may be used for this program. Let me just give you an idea of some of the more advanced programs. The advanced list is the Dark Nebula Observing Program. Nebulae are among the most difficult objects for observer to search out. Although many are large enough to be visible to the unaided eye or as binocular objects, they may be difficult because transparent skies away from city lights are needed. To independently observe and locate at least 70 dark nebulae, there are 35 required objects on the list that you must observe. Choose 35 others from the list for a total to receive your pin and interesting advanced is Herschel 400 Observing Program. The new General Catalog was a compilation of several deep sky catalogs circa 1880. Contained almost 8,000 objects, of which 2,477 were observed by William Herschel. Certification is available, and there's a very challenging list of objects. Each observation has to include the object name, date and time, latitude, longitude, seeing and transparency, and the instrument. After you complete these programs, you submit them to their respective representatives for inspection and verification, and once your observations have been verified, then you're sent back your certificate and or pin for your designated program. So there's just some highlights. There are many more programs that I did not go into, but if you go to astroleague.org and look for the list of observing programs, you can see which ones are marked for novice, intermediate, and advanced. So happy sky hunting and constellation hunting, and if you do any programs, it would be wonderful to hear about those. So if there's anyone on frequency that has completed any of these Astronomical League programs, please come now. I've completed the Messier, not binocular Messier, but Messier with 70 objects, the Lunar one, and I've also gotten a stellar level on the outreach program. They also have an outreach pin you can work on to frequency that has an AL award that they'd like to talk about. Please come now with your call sign. So hopefully this piques your interest. If you're looking for something to do, these are great ways to have some goals to accomplish some night sky observing. And there's also some specialty ones out there that come up from time to time for special events like planetary transits across the sun, like Mercury transit, Venus transit. and other specialty ones that come up to mark somewhat historical occasions. So hopefully you'll check out that list. If you've not done any of those programs, please do check them out. I highly encourage you to do them. They're fun to do, and they're a great way to learn about the sky and then to have a nice certificate or pin as a memento. KFI PDS, Billy, you're for this session of the DARC Skynet. At this time, I'm going to turn the net back over to Tom, KE5ICX. If you'll do a check-in round and see if we've had any more folks join us to Skynet, and then you have my permission to turn the net directly over to Chaz for Was Up after the check-in round. So KE5ICX from KF5 PDS.
Very good, Miss Billy. I'll do exactly that. This is KE5ICX, and I'm alternate net control. I'll take additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from.
This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in DeSoto.
Net recognizes WB5OZL. Brenda in DeSoto. Anyone else? All right, hearing none, we'll turn the net over to KF5JHA, the very happy Ohio State graduate. So very happy with his team, I'm sure. Chaz, go ahead. I think we're at Was Up from KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, the score is really close. It's 54 for the Ohio State University and 7 points for Indiana. So 3 minutes, 51 seconds left in the game. Yeah, this is KF5JHA. My degree is in astrophysics. I'm in charge of the astrophysics lab and the geology lab at Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus. I call this segment of Skynet Was Up. Slide Master, thanks for slide 1. Slide 2 is next. On October the 20th, the moon was full. So the current phase of the moon is a waning gibbous. On October 24th, the moon is at its apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth. On October 28th, the moon is at its third quarter phase. The moon will be new on November the 4th. On November the 5th, the moon will be at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth. And on November the 11th, the moon will be at its first quarter phase. Slide number 3, please. On November the 3rd, the early morning eastern sky, you can observe a conjunction of the moon, Mercury, and the star Spica. Later that day, around 3:04 p.m. Central Daylight Time, the moon will come close to occulting, in other words, blocking, the planet Mercury from our view. Since this is a daytime event, you will need a telescope in order to observe this event. But because it is a daytime event, you need to make sure that you do not point your telescope at the sun. Slide number 4, please. A few nights later, in the southwestern evening sky on November the 7th, the moon and Venus are in conjunction. Slide number 5. In the early morning southeastern sky on November the 11th, Mercury and Mars will be less than 1 degree apart in this conjunction. And on the same day, but in the evening sky, slide number 6, so November the 10th, the moon will be in between the planets Jupiter and Saturn in the southwestern sky. It won't be exactly in between. The moon will be a little bit below the halfway point in between them. Slide number 7, please. On the night of November 17th and 18th, the Leonid meteor shower peaks with between a few dozen meteors per hour, but it could have as many as 400 meteors per hour. The Leonid meteor shower is famous for having meteor storms every 33 years. The last meteor storm was in the year 2000. The problem with watching the Leonid meteor shower this year is that the moon is close to being full, which will prevent the fainter meteors in this shower from being seen. Slide number 8, please. Early morning on Friday, November the 19th, there will be a partial lunar eclipse. Actually, this lunar eclipse is almost a total lunar eclipse. 97% of the moon will travel into the Earth's umbral shadow, which is the darker part of the Earth's shadow. So most people will think it looks like a total lunar eclipse. The moon will enter the lighter part of the Earth's shadow, called the penumbra, at 12:02 a.m. Central Standard Time. This is just a couple minutes after midnight, so this is early Friday morning. This will be difficult to notice by most people. But at 1:19 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon begins to enter the darker part of the Earth's shadow, called the umbra. At 3:04 a.m. Central Standard Time, a little bit over 97% of the moon will be inside the umbra, which will be the middle of the eclipse and also the eclipse maximum. At 4:47 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon leaves the umbral shadow of the Earth, and at 6:04 Central Standard Time, the moon leaves the penumbral shadow. But the last part of the eclipse won't be visible from Dallas Metroplex because the sun will be rising and the moon will be setting. Slide number 9, please. The Alpha Monocerid meteor shower will peak on the night of November 20th, 21st, with maybe few meteors, but it could have more than 100 meteors per hour of observing. But once again, the moon phase is close to full, so the fainter meteors will not be able to be observed that night. Slide number 10, please. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting, once again, will be on Friday, November the 19th at 7:30 p.m. It'll be a swap meet, and it'll be a Zoom meeting, virtual. If you want to get more information about TASS and its meetings, and whenever we'll resume public observing sessions after we get through with this current spike in COVID, then go to their website, texasastro.org, to get those detailed information. Okay, slide number 11. Do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on any of the information, or do you just have a general astronomy question? I don't know everything, but I may know the answer to your question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question. Hearing nothing, I guess what I'll have to do is report on the Ohio State University football game as they won. Okay, slide number 12. So as the moon wanes at the end of October, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Say, stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. And until next week, well, actually, I'll be doing another Skynet segment in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is Chaz, KF5JHA, back to our net control, KF5PDS.
Thank you very much, Chaz. All right, next up is space exploration and space history. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Kelly, K5KTS.
Thank you Billy. This is K5KTX. Good evening to everyone. I'm hearing a lot of static on my end, so hopefully you can all hear me okay. So a NASA mission helped solve a mystery. Why are some asteroid surfaces rocky? Scientists thought asteroid Bennu's surface was like a sandy beach, abundant in fine sand and pebbles, which would have been perfect for collecting samples. Past telescope observations from Earth had suggested the presence of large swaths of fine-grained material smaller than a few centimeters called fine regolith. But when NASA's OSIRIS-REx mission arrived at Bennu in late 2018, the mission saw a surface covered in boulders. The mysterious lack of fine regolith became even more surprising when mission scientists observed evidence of processes potentially capable of grinding boulders into fine regolith. New research published in Nature and led by Saverio Cambioni of the University of Arizona used machine learning and surface temperature data to solve the mystery. Cambioni conducted the research at the university's Lunar and Planetary Laboratory. He and his colleagues ultimately found that Bennu's highly porous rocks are responsible for the surface's surprising lack of fine regolith. The REx in OSIRIS-REx stands for Regolith Explorer, so mapping and characterizing the surface of the asteroid was a main goal. The spacecraft collected very high-resolution data for Bennu's entire surface, which was down to 3 millimeters per pixel at some locations. Beyond scientific interest, the lack of fine regolith became a challenge for the mission itself because the spacecraft was designed to collect such material. Cambioni said, when the first images of Bennu came in, we noted some areas where the resolution was not high enough to see whether there were small rocks or fine regolith. We started using our machine learning approach to distinguish fine regolith from rocks using thermal emission or infrared data. The thermal emission from fine regolith is different from that of larger rocks because the size of its particles controls the former, while the latter is controlled by rock porosity. The team first built a library of thermal emissions associated with fine regolith mixed in different proportions with rocks of various porosity. Next, they used machine learning techniques to teach a computer how to connect the dots between the examples, Cambioni said. They analyzed 122 areas on the surface of Bennu that were observed both during the day and the night. Only machine learning could efficiently explore a data set this large. Cambioni and his collaborators found something surprising when the data analysis was completed. The fine regolith was not randomly distributed on Bennu. Instead, it was up to several tens of percent in those very few areas where rocks are non-porous and systematically lower where rocks have higher porosity, which is most of the surface. The team concluded that very little fine regolith is produced from Bennu's highly porous rocks because these are compressed rather than fragmented by meteoroid impacts. Like a sponge, the voids within rocks cushion the blow from incoming meteoroids. These findings are also in agreement with laboratory experiments from other research groups. Basically, a big part of the energy of the impact goes into crushing the pores, restricting the fragmentation of the rocks and the production of new fine regolith. Additionally, Cambioni and colleagues showed that cracking caused by the heating and cooling of Bennu's rocks as the asteroid rotates through day and night proceeds more slowly in porous rocks than in denser rocks, further frustrating the production of fine regolith. Jason Dworkin, OSIRIS-REx's project scientist at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland, said, when OSIRIS-REx delivers its sample of Bennu to Earth in September of 2023, scientists will be able to study the samples in detail. This includes testing the physical properties of the rocks to verify this study. Other missions have evidence to support the team's findings. The Japan Aerospace and Exploration Agency, or JAXA, Hayabusa 2 mission to Ryugu, a carbonaceous asteroid like Bennu, found that Ryugu also lacks fine regolith and has high porosity rocks. Conversely, JAXA's Hayabusa mission in 2005 revealed abundant fine regoliths on the surface of asteroid Itokawa, an S-type asteroid with rocks of a different composition than Bennu and Ryugu. A previous study, also from Cambioni and colleagues, provided evidence that its rocks are less porous than Bennu's and Ryugu's using observations from Earth. The team predicts that large swaths of fine regoliths should be uncommon on carbonaceous asteroids, the most common of all asteroid types observed, in which the team expects to have high porosity rocks like Bennu. By contrast, they predict terrains rich in fine regoliths to be common on S-type asteroids, the second most populous type of asteroids observed in the solar system, which they expect to have denser, less porous rocks than carbonaceous asteroids. Cambioni said, "This is an important piece in the puzzle of what drives the diversity of asteroids' surfaces. Asteroids are thought to be relics of the early solar system, so understanding the evolution they have undergone in time is crucial to comprehend how the solar system formed and evolved. Now that we know this fundamental difference between carbonaceous and S-type asteroids, future teams can better prepare sample collection missions depending on the nature of the target asteroid." Cambioni is continuing his research on planetary diversity as a distinguished postdoctoral fellow in the Department of Earth, Atmospheric and Planetary Sciences at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And this is K5KTX for Skynet in space history this past week, starting with October the 19th. Back in 1910, Subramanian Chandrasekhar was born. He was an Indian-American astrophysicist who spent his professional life in the United States. He was awarded the 1983 Nobel Prize for Physics with William A. Fowler. His mathematical treatment of stellar evolution yielded many of the current theoretical models of the later evolutionary stages of massive stars and black holes. Chandrasekhar worked on a wide variety of physical problems in his lifetime. Most famously in the popular press, Chandrasekhar showed that the mass of a white dwarf could not exceed 1.44 times that of the Sun, the Chandrasekhar limit. Stars larger than that size become a neutron star or a black hole at the end of their life. The Chandra X-ray Observatory was named in his honor. Also on October the 19th, back in 1967, the Mariner 5 spacecraft flew by Venus. The probe was originally built as a backup for the Mariner 4 Mars mission, but thanks to that mission's success, Mariner 5 was modified to become a Venus mission. Mariner 5 launched from Cape Canaveral Air Force Station on June 14, 1967, and on October the 19th at 1:43 p.m. Eastern Time, it had its closest approach at about 2,500 miles above the surface of Venus. Mariner 5 was the second successful Venus flyby mission. Mariner 2 in December of 1962 was the first. However, this accomplishment was overshadowed by the success of the USSR just a day earlier. On October the 18th, 1967, Venera 4 successfully entered the atmosphere of Venus and transmitted data for 93 minutes as it descended under a parachute to the surface. It was the first spacecraft to transmit data from another planet's atmosphere. Contact with Mariner 5 was lost on December 4th, 1967, but was temporarily regained on October 14th, 1968. It's now in orbit around the Sun. On October the 20th, 1995, after a series of delays, Space Shuttle Columbia launched on mission STS-73 from NASA's Kennedy Space Center. It was originally scheduled to launch on September 25th, but that launch was scrubbed. It was then rescheduled for October 5th, but that launch was scrubbed as well. In fact, STS-73's launch was scrubbed on the launch pad 6 times. Only one other mission scrubbed as many times, STS-61C, also on Shuttle Columbia in 1986. Both missions launched successfully on the 7th attempt. On October the 22nd, back in 1975, the Soviet Venera 9 lander touched down on Venus. The craft sent the first photo from the surface of another planet. 23rd, 1979, the band The Police filmed a music video for their song Walking on the Moon, one of my favorites, at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. In fact, many productions have filmed in part at NASA's Kennedy Space Center, including the films Contact back in 1997, Apollo 13, 1995, Tomorrowland, 2015, Armageddon, 1998, Transformers, Dark of the Moon, 2011, and more. To our knowledge, however, the police are the only filmmakers who use the engine of a Saturn V rocket as a drum set, and you'll have to go find the video for the song to see that. And finally, we have astronaut birthdays for this past week. We have 3 from October the 17th. The first one is October 17th, 1926. Carl Gordon Hennes, I think is how you pronounce it, Hennes. He was on Space Shuttle mission STS-51F. October 17th, 1933, Bill Anders, who was, of course, on Apollo 8. And October 17th, 1956, Mae Jemison, who was on Space Shuttle mission STS-47. We have a couple of astronauts who were born on October 21st. The first is Ronald Mcnair, who was born in 1950. He was on 2 Space Shuttle missions, STS-41B and STS-51L, which was the Space Shuttle Challenger. And then October 21st, 1966, Douglas Hurley was Space Shuttle missions STS-127, STS-135, and of course he was on the first crewed mission of SpaceX Dragon on the DM-2 mission. And finally, October the 22nd, 1933, Donald Peterson, who was on Space Shuttle mission STS-6. And that's all I've got for this evening. This is K5KTX. Back to you, Billy.
Thank you very much, Kelly. All right, next up is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. So this time I'll turn the net over to Chaz, KF5JHA, if you'll do the honors of Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week.
Thank you, Billy. I'm doing an O because of what's going on over at Echolink. You know what goes on in Echolink and what goes on over here on the YouTube video and what goes on air over the radio. They're all probably different. They're not all the same. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky in a year. In her honor, we have continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Lacerta, the Lizard. Lacerta is the 68th constellation in size, occupying an area of 201 square degrees. Lacerta contains no Messier objects. The name Lacerta does not come from the mythology. The constellation of Lacerta the Lizard was created by a Polish astronomer in 1687 to fill a void between Cassiopeia and Cygnus. In addition to the name Lacerta, which is Latin for lizard, this Helveticus offered up the name Stellio. Stellio means stallion for this constellation, but stallion is a type of lizard, and the star occupies the spots that lives in areas surrounding the Mediterranean Sea. The name stellion is derived from the word which is the word stella, which of course means star. Even though a starry lizard seems much more appropriate than a plain lizard for the constellation, the name Lacerta won out. So we just call this constellation Lacerta today. Slide number 14, please, and this is what all of you have been waiting for all night long. Yeah, there is some sort of TV show about Stella. Yeah, that's what Tom is saying over on Echo Link. Oh, okay. The jokes of the week. Where does a lizard go after it drops its tail? The retail store. Okay, you know about Bob the cat, my cat. He loves hunting lizards, but he never kills them. He's just all about the details. How much does a lizard weigh? Depends on the scales. Yeah, okay, I understand some of these aren't scientific, but that's okay. These are jokes. What do you call a lizard that tells damaging lies about you? Not a salamander, but a slandermander. Okay, I don't know if that's very funny or not. The doctor said to put a baby monitor in the crib with the baby. But I don't think lizards make very good pets for babies. You know, a monitor is a type of lizard. Okay, maybe that didn't work either. And the last one for this segment, oh, I can hear you cheering out there already. What do you call a dead prehistoric lizard? A dinosaur. Oh, come on, that is funny. Okay. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 15, please. Alpha Lacertae, the brightest star in the Lacerta, shines at magnitude 3.8. It's a visual double star where the companion is about 36 arc seconds from Alpha, shining at a magnitude of 11.8, which is a lot dimmer. The two stars are not really associated with one another in space, but simply appear along the same line of sight. Rho 47 is another multiple star system with 5 stars in all. The two brightest stars shine at magnitude 5.9 and 9.8 and are easily split. Higher magnification is required to see all 5 stars. Dave Hutchinson recommends 200 power or more and mentions that the two stars show a nice color contrast. 8 Lacertae is in the Astronomical League Double Star Club, and Billy had talked about the Astronomical League Observing Clubs earlier. We'll get more of that, or review more of that later on. 8 Lacertae is another easily split double star. The primary shines at 5.7 magnitude, and with another one at magnitude 6.5. The companion is 22.3 arc seconds away. Dave Hutchinson writes that this is a good double star for checking your eye's ability to determine differences in magnitude, because they're less than a magnitude apart from each other. In his Deep Sky Wonders column, the late Walter Scott Houston noted that the two stars of 9th and 10th magnitude lie 82 seconds and 49 seconds from the primary and may be part of the same physical system. Slide Master, slide number 16, please. NGC 7243 is an open cluster, the first of 3 mentioned in one of the Spectrum article that Dave Hutchinson wrote. He mentions that Stephen J. O'Meara writes about observing this cluster with a naked eye in his notebook, the Caldwell objects. If sharp-eyed observers can see the cluster without optical aid, then it would probably make a really good binocular object. So that is why NGC 7243 makes it into the Binocular Deep Sky Observing Club, and also in the Urban Observing Club. I think Billy mentioned all of these about earlier in the feature topic this evening. Dave Hutchinson writes that the cluster is obvious when observing it at low magnification, but with higher magnification it begins to blend in with the background stars. Stephen J. O'Meara confirms this. Both O'Meara and Walter Scott Houston mention a nice double star at the cluster's center. O'Meara notes that Struve 2890, a fine double star for small aperture telescopes. And slide number 17, please. NGC 7209, the Lizards. Wonder where it got its name from. Maybe it's constellation that it's in. It's another open star cluster that's easy enough to make it into the binocular and deep sky and urban observing clubs. It can be resolved with small apertures, and Mulder-Scott Huston notes that at low power it stands out nicely from the Milky Way. This agrees with Dave Hutchinson's observations that the cluster is best viewed at low power. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide number 18, please. There's a few more Astronomical League Observing Program objects in the constellation of Lacerta, the Lizard. I've given you a sampling of a few of those objects. The Astronomical League now has over 70 different observing programs, which got summarized earlier in the feature program tonight. Thank you so much, Billy. And most of them, she outlined several of them, had different numbers of objects, but most of them have around 100 objects. So if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can obtain an observing certificate and a pen in about a year. Billy, I didn't say it, but I actually have started several of the observing programs, and in fact, there was one night that I observed 108 of the Messier objects in one night, so I probably could claim that certificate, but I just haven't turned in all those paperwork. So I'm working on the Earth orbiting satellites and the Urban Observing Club, and a couple of other ones I've done a little bit of work on as well. Okay, Slide Master, slide number 19, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Lacerta the Lizard. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every night that I am here on Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. And next time I'll take a look at the constellation of Aquarius. Is this the H we're talking about? Oh, it's a water bearer. And this is KF5JHA, backdoor net control. Billy, get me out of this. This is back to you, KF5PDS.
Thank you very much, Chaz, for your wonderful report. And that's awesome that you've done so many Messier objects, especially in one night. That's phenomenal. Yeah, get some of those reports too. Get those certificates and pins. If you've done a program, do one. They're lots of fun. All right, up next is space launches for the week. So I'm going to turn it over to Tom, KE5ICX. If you'll do a quick check-in round, see if that would like to check in, and then tell us what's up with space launches for this week. There's ICX from KF5PDS.
Thanks again, Billy. This is KE5ICX. I'm taking check-ins. If you want to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean at Fort Worth.
Okay, we picked up one more. KV9SOK, that's Sean in Fort Worth. Okay, let me go ahead and give space launches for the week. And this all comes from spaceflightnow.com/launch schedule. You can find all of these. Why would you want to? Well, to be honest with you, it's kind of interesting because virtually every launch is streamed live from various platforms, mostly YouTube, but not always. So if you know when they're going to launch, all you have to do is go to YouTube, look for live and the name of the mission, and you can watch live. So here we go. We've got October 23rd, 24th, Overnight, it'll be an Ariane 5 launch from Kourou, French Guiana. At Aerospace, we use an Ariane 5 ECA rocket designated VA-255 to launch an SCS-17 and Syracuse 4A communications satellite. Built by Alina Space, the SCS-17 communications satellite will provide internet connectivity to airline passengers over the Americas, communications with the Caribbean, Atlantic Ocean for SES of Luxembourg. The Syracuse 4A spacecraft, built by Thales Alina Space, will provide communication services for the French military. On October 25th, we have a launch from Taiyan, China. A Chinese Kaishao 1A rocket launch will launch a small satellite to join the Jilin 1 Earth observation constellation owned by Chengguang Satellite Technology. October 25th, 26th, we have a launch from the Tanegashima Space Center in Japan. This Japanese will launch an H-2A rocket, which will be a replacement satellite for Japan's quasi-zenith satellite system, which provides regional navigation services over Asia-Pacific region. The QZS-1R satellite, built by Mitsubishi Electric Company, will replace the aging QZS-1, launched in 2010. The H-2A rocket will fly in the 202 configuration with two strap-on solid rocket boosters. October 27, 28, we have a Soyuz Progress 79P launching from Baltimore Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The Russian government Soyuz rocket will launch the 79th Progress cargo delivery ship to the International Space Station. The rocket will fly in the Soyuz 2.1 configuration. Next we have, I'm watching time here, October 28th, there will be a launch from the Pacific Spaceport Complex at Kodak Island, Alaska. A commercial small satellite launch vehicle developed by Astra will attempt to launch a non-deployable test payload into orbit for the U.S. Space Force and Space Test Program. The last time they tried to launch one of these, the rocket actually went sideways. Failed to reach orbit, by the way, too. Finally, this is the last one I'll give, a Falcon 9 launch from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center. A Crew Dragon spacecraft on its fifth flight with astronauts. NASA astronauts Raja Cherry, Thomas Mashburn from the European Space Agency, astronaut Matthias Maurer, and NASA mission specialist Kyla Barron will launch on the Crew Dragon spacecraft to begin its 6-month expedition to the International Space Station. The Crew Dragon will return to a splashdown at sea. And that's it from me. Back to net control.
All right, up next is recent astronomical discoveries. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Brenda, WB5OZL. The net is yours.
Thank you, Billy. This is WB5OZL. Don't know how much time we got. Not a lot, so I might cut this short, but we'll go ahead and get started. And the title is Astronomers Provide Field Guide to Exoplanets Known as Hot Jupiters. Those are giant gas planets that race around their host stars in extremely tight orbits. And they've become a little less mysterious thanks to a new study combining theoretical modeling with observations by the Hubble Space Telescope. While previous studies mostly focused on individual worlds classified as hot Jupiters due to their superficial similarity to the gas giant in our own solar system, the new study is the first to look at a broader population of the strange worlds. Published in Nature Astronomy, the study, led by a University of Arizona researcher, provides astronomers with a field guide to hot Jupiters and offers insight into planet formation in general. Although astronomers think that only 1 in 10 stars host an exoplanet in the Jupiter class, the peculiar planets make up a sizable portion of exoplanets discovered to date due to the fact that they are types of exoplanets such as rocky, more Earth-like planets or smaller, cooler gas planets, ranging in size from about 1/3 the size of Jupiter to 10 Jupiter masses. All hot Jupiters orbit their host star at an extremely close range, usually much closer to Mercury. The innermost planet in our solar system is the Sun. A typical hot Jupiter lasts hours, or at most a few days. For comparison, Mercury takes almost 3 months to complete a trip around the Sun. Because of their close orbits, most, if not all, hot Jupiters are thought to be locked in a high-speed embrace with their host stars, with one side eternally exposed to radiation and the other shrouded in perpetual. The surface of a typical hot Jupiter can get as hot as almost 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit, with cooler specimens reaching 1,400 degrees, hot enough to melt aluminum. The research, which was led by Megan Mansfield, a NASA Sagan Fellow at the University of Arizona's Stewart Observatory, used observations made with the Hubble Space Telescope that allowed the team to directly measure emission spectra from hot Jupiters, despite the fact that Hubble can't image any of these planets directly. These systems, these stars, and their hot Jupiters are too far away to record the individual star and its planet, Mansfield said. All we can see is a point, a combined light source of the two. Mansfield and her team used a method known as secondary eclipsing to tease out information observations that allowed them to peer deep into the planet's atmospheres and gain insights into their structure and chemical makeup. The technique involves repeated observations of the same system, catching the planet at various places in its orbit, including when it dips behind the star. We basically measure the combined light coming from the star and its planet and compare that measurement with what we see when the planet is hidden from its star, Mansfield said. This allows us to subtract the star's contribution and isolate the light emitted by the planet, even though we can't see it directly. The eclipse data provided by the researchers is insight into the thermal structure of the atmospheres of hot Jupiters and allowed them to construct individual profiles of temperatures and pressures for each one. The team then analyzed near-infrared light, which is a band of wavelengths just beyond the range humans can see, coming from each hot Jupiter system for so-called absorption features. Because each molecule or atom has its own specific absorption profile, like a fingerprint, looking at different wavelengths allows researchers to obtain information about the chemical makeup of hot Jupiters. For example, if water is present in the planet's atmosphere, it will absorb light at 1.4 microns, which falls into the range of wavelengths that humans can see very well. In a way, we use molecules to scan through the atmospheres on these hot Jupiters, Mansfield said. We can use the spectrum we observe to get information on what the atmosphere is made of, and we can also get information on what the structure of the atmosphere looks like. Okay, this is a pretty long article, and it's on in ScienceDaily.com. It's almost 10:30, so I'm going to send this back to Ned. This is WB5OZL.
Thanks very much, Brenda.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net. www.heavens-above.com. You can find out what's in orbit and where to look during flyovers. All right, this time I'll return it to Tom one more time, see if we have a final check-in round, and then if you could give me for this evening's net, that would be awesome. It's KE5ITX from KF5PDS.
All right, very good. This is KE5ICX. We'll go ahead and do our final round. Anyone like to join us this evening, please come now with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
November 5, Hotel Yankee Papa, Tom Irving.
Okie dokie, our final check-in, N5HYP, Tom over in Irving. We got 22 check-ins this evening. Back to net control.
As I saw your comment over there, sorry, repeat values do not increase the cardinality of the set, so it wouldn't help to check in twice. But I appreciate the effort. All right, tonight we had 22 hams participating on the air tonight, so thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for all the other DARC nets, so if you'd like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is KF5 PDS, Billy, and I'll be closing the net at 22:32 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 7-3, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And remember, stick around for the Afterglow movie net following Skynet. For tonight, we'll be discussing Prometheus. 7-3, everybody.
Thank you, Miss Billy, for doing a great job on the net. And my apologies to everybody for getting kind of a late start. I'll explain it another time. We'll be back for Prometheus in about 5 minutes. We'll be looking for somebody who'd like to be net control, so think about it, mull it over, and then we'll go and finger you. If you do 5 or more nets, we'll recognize you on the 6th net. So think about that, another contest. So we'll be back in about 5 minutes. This is KE5ICX. Oh, while we wait, I'm looking for volunteer for net control tonight. It's Prometheus, not a bad film, not a great film, but not a bad film. You get to make all sorts of cool comments and interject during the conversations. Do I have someone out there who would like to volunteer? Who wants to be Spartacus this evening? Come on, you know you want to. I'll come back in another minute and ask again. This is KE5ICX.
K5ICX N5HYP. I'll run the next week, but not tonight.
No, I understand. You did your part for King and Country last week, so I was kind of seeing if I could convince somebody else to take it this week. So we'll find it, and thank you for volunteering for next week, because that's your baby anyway. Brenda, Bill, TBD, anyone?
Tom, if nobody else will do it, I guess I'll do it. But I warn you, I may cut the net short. I'm just too tired tonight to be up till midnight. So I may just cut people off inside BB.
Well, Bill, I fully understand. In fact, the net got started, Skynet got started a little late because I had to be woke up. I fell asleep. I was in deep sleep. So I understand and I fully empathize. Why don't you go ahead and take it, and then after that, if you say we're done, that's fine by me, because I'm ready for bed myself.
Okay, this is Inside BB. I'm now starting the Afterglow net. Tonight we're going to be talking about Prometheus, and I forget, what year did this come out, Tom?
T12.
Oh, okay. And they're still talking about making a sequel to this, maybe two sequels, but they haven't done it yet, so they're taking their good time. Okay, this is a 2012 movie by Ridley Scott, and spoiler alert, it is a sequel, a really early sequel to the movie Alien with Sigourney Weaver, which was James Cameron before it turned into Ridley Scott as far as the producer. Anyway, so, Tom, you want to read your description of the movie? N5EB.
Well, I can do that, or I can read the plot here. Let me look and see. Let me do the plot from Wikipedia here. That way then people have a chance to reconnect with us in a 5-minute break. So here it is. As mentioned on Wikipedia, spacecraft departs planet. Humanoid alien drinks an iridescent liquid, causing his body to dissolve. It remains cascade into a waterfall, and the alien's DNA falls apart and recombines. In 2089, archaeologists Elizabeth Shaw and Charlie Holloway discover a star map in Scotland that matches others from several unconnected alien cultures. They interpret this as an invitation from humanity's forerunners, the engineers. Peter Whalen, the elderly CEO of Whalen Corporation, funds an expedition aboard the scientific vessel Prometheus to follow the map to the distant moon LV-223. The crew travels in stasis while android David monitors their voyage. We can call him Hal if you'd like. Arriving in December of 2093, mission director Meredith Vickers informs them that their mission to find the engineers and not to make contact without her permission. Prometheus lands and finds a mountainous surface near an artificial structure, which the team explores. Inside, they find stone cylinders, a monolithic statue of a humanoid head, a decapitated corpse of a large alien thought to be an engineer. Shaw recovers its head. The crew finds other bodies, leading them to surmise that the species is extinct. Crew members Milburn and Seafield grow uncomfortable with the discoveries and attempt to return to Prometheus, but become stranded in the structure. Whether they get lost, the expedition is cut short when the storm forces the crew to return to the ship. David secretly takes a cylinder from the structure, while the remaining cylinders begin leaking a dark liquid. In the ship's lab, the engineer's DNA is found to match that of humans. David investigates the cylinder and the liquid inside. He intentionally taints a drink with the liquid and gives it to the unsuspecting Holloway, who has stated he would do anything for answers. Shortly after, Shaw and Holloway have sex. Inside the structure, the snake-like creature kills Milburn and sprays a corrosive fluid and melts Seafield's helmet. Seafield falls face first in a puddle of dark liquid. When the crew returns, they find Milburn's corpse. David separately discovers a control room containing a surviving engineer in stasis and a large 3D holographic star map highlighting Earth. Meanwhile, Holloway sickens rapidly. He is rushed back to the Prometheus, but Vicker refuses to let him on board. At his urging, burns him to death with a flamethrower. Later, a medical scan reveals that Shaw, despite being previously infertile, now has an advanced pregnancy. Fearing the worst, she uses the automated surgery table to extract a squid-like creature from her abdomen. Shaw then discovers that Whalen has been in stasis aboard Prometheus. He explains that he wants to ask the engineers how to prevent his death from old age. As Whalen prepares to leave for the structure, Vickers addresses him as father. And the final act. A monstrous, mutilated Seafield returns to the Prometheus and kills several crew members before he himself is killed. The Prometheus captain, Janik, speculates that this structure was an engineer military base that lost control of the virulent biological weapon, the dark liquid. He also determines the structure houses a spacecraft. Whalen and the team return to the structure, accompanied by Shaw. David awakes the engineer from stasis and speaks to him in Proto-Indo-European. That's the thing, I guess, to try and explain what Whalen wants. The engineer responds by decapitating David. Heads, you... I added that. And killing Whalen and his team before reactivating the spacecraft. Shaw flees and warns Janik that the engineer is planning to release the liquid on Earth, convincing him to stop the spacecraft. I want to get off. Janet and the remaining crew sacrifice themselves by ramming the Prometheus at ramming speed into the alien craft, ejecting a lifeboat in the process while Vickers flees in the escape pod. That's a lot of prepositional phrases. The engineer's disabled spacecraft crashes onto the ground, killing Vickers. Shaw goes to the lifeboat and finds her alien offspring is alive and has grown to gigantic size. I don't know how they do that. David's still active head warns Shaw that the engineer is pursuing her. The engineer forces open the lifeboat's airlock and attacks Shaw, who releases her alien offspring onto the engineer. It thrusts an ovipositor, that's a thing, look it up, down the engineer's throat, subduing him. Shaw recovers David's remains and with his help launches another engineer spacecraft. She intends to reach the engineer's homeworld in an attempt to understand why they wanted to destroy humanity. In the boat, an alien creature bursts out of the engineer's chest. The end. Fade to black. Back to you, Bill, from KE5ICX.
Okay. If you haven't seen the film, after listening to what Tom just said, it's pretty brutal. Bad things happen in the movie. Anyway, okay. So let's move forward now with check-ins. So right now I'm not looking at Echolink. I'll try to boot up Echolink here where I'm talking. But let's try check-ins on RF. Who wants to check in to the Afterglow movie tonight? This is N5BB Net Control. Please come with your call sign, your name, and your location.
This is N5HYP. Tom, I did not see the movie, but I have an announcement.
Oh, yeah. Please tell us if you saw the movie. Thank you, Tom. Anybody else?
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto. I did see the movie.
Whiskey 5, Echo Bravo Bravo. Yes, I saw the movie.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. Many moons ago, I did see this movie. NT5TM.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-ray, Tom, Louisville. Yeah, I did see it.
Golf 5, Bravo, Zulu Whiskey, Jane Whitford. I saw it a long time ago, too.
Okay, I recognize myself, N5BB. I saw the movie. Tom, Key5ICX, he saw the movie. Tom, N5HYP, he did not see the movie, but he has a piece of news. WB5OZL, Brenda, she did see the movie. W5EBB, David, he did see the movie. NT5TM, Tony, yes, he saw the movie a long time ago. KG5BZWJ, yes, he saw it a long time ago. Do we have any other check-ins to the Afterglow Net? This is N5BB Net Control. Okay, does anybody on Echolink want to check in to the Afterglow Net? This is N5BB. Who do I see over there? Besides Jay and Tom. Billy and Huey. Do either of you want to check in? This is N5BB.
Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy, and I saw the film.
Okay, KF5 PDS Billy. Please confirm that you did see the film. Is that correct?
It's affirmative. I did see the film.
Okay, Billy, you echoing, cut you off a little bit. Okay, so far everybody's seen the film except for Tom. I'll ask one more time here, and we'll ask later. Does anybody else want to check into the Afterglow movie? We're talking about Prometheus, the 2012 sequel, prequel. It's a prequel to the Alien movie series. Anybody else want to check in before we start? This is N5BB, Net Control. Okay, N5HYP Tom, go ahead with your announcement there, and then at the end of it, let me know if you want to participate in this net or not. N5BB, go ahead, Tom.
This is N5HYP. And no, I do not want to participate in the net beyond the announcement here. We're having an in-person Afterglow movie event next Friday evening. It'll be Max Headroom and s'mores at our place, starting at 7 p.m. on Friday the 29th. Our address is 2713 Lake Gardens Drive in Irving. We'll supply some light liquids and the fixins for s'mores. We'll be doing both the original English version of the Max Headroom movie, sort of. It was a 1-hour special. And then after that, we will do the first episode of the 14-episode ABC series. You can get the 1985 British version on YouTube. Search for Max Headroom 20 Minutes into the Future, and that is the one that we'll be watching first. The other one's only available on DVD as far as I know. So we'll watch that, and those of us who show up can compare what the differences are between the two. It'll be a fun time. If you want some directions, or especially if you'd like to let me know who's coming, I've already gotten some indication from several people that they'll be there. Email me n5hyp@arrl.net, and we'll get you going. Looking forward to seeing some of us next weekend, next Friday night. It'll be fun. The weather should be good. Bring a light jacket because it's going to get cooler in the evening. 73 Stahl from N5HYP.
Okay, Tom, I can't remember if you explicitly said this. This will be in your backyard, right? So it'll be an outdoor event.
Yes, it's an outdoor event. We have a fire pit, and it's a nice projection screen and a decent sound system, and it'll be fun.
Very good. Thank you very much, Tom. I can also help people with directions to Tom's house. So, in fact, I picked him up and took him to the Dallas Amateur Radio Club / Irving event today. So I know exactly how to get there. Does anyone have any questions for Tom about the event? It's coming Friday, October the 29th, 6 days from today. Does anybody have any questions about this event before Tom leaves? This is N5BB, Net Control. Nothing heard. 73 Tom, I'll let you go on and get out of here. Had a long day, and we will see you on Friday. I will be there. Okay, now let's start talking about the movie, Afterglow movie, which is Prometheus, the 2012 prequel, distant prequel to the Alien series. And I'm going to start and kind of go backwards here. So, Billy, on Echolink, what did you think about the plot of this movie? What's your overall view of the movie and the plot? So, your initial take on the movie. This is N5BB Afterglow Net. Go ahead, Billy.
Okay, there it goes. Thanks, Bill. Yeah, when I originally saw this, I did not know that it was an Alien prequel. At the very end, I was shocked. You know, at first I was like confused by the beginning, wasn't sure what was going on, and then as the movie unfolded, it, you know, tended to answer questions, but then it posed more questions and left you with this really, you know, kind of almost a cliffhanger feel, you know, since it was a prequel leading into Alien. That I was really surprised by, because at first I thought, oh, this is just in the Alien universe, and then I realized at the end what was happening. So to me it was just very weird, and, you know, it was gross at times, but, you know, the Alien movie that way. But I thought it was fascinating seeing the background, the backstory. I loved it when they found the engineer ship, and saw how it tied into Earth. So I thought it was pretty fascinating. I don't recall, it's been a while, I didn't get to watch it this week, but I don't recall feeling any kind of boredom or lag in the film. To me, I think that I remember the action moved pretty well. Some of the characters, you know, I didn't really like, but we'll talk about that in characterization. But overall, I thought it was an engaging plot. It had its twists and turns, and then ended up to me with a surprise ending. So every once in a while, I do get it out. I did purchase it on DVD, so I found it fascinating enough to buy a copy. So anyway, that's my take on the plot. So sorry I don't have any more details, but it's been a while since I've seen it. So I'll throw it back to you, Bill. This is KFI-CBS, back to net.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you, Billy. Next, let's go, going backwards, let's go to Jay, KG5BZW. Echolink or RF, whichever one you want to do there, Jay. What did you think about the movie, the plot? This is N5BB.
This is KG5BZW.
Yeah, I didn't hate the film. Actually, hold on 1 second. I'm on Echolink and the radio here, so I get rid of the echo through the radio. I would say, you know, I can't really, I didn't hate anything about the film. It's, well, I'm not sure if it was something that was a good thing for me or not, because I actually hadn't seen the previous Alien films, the Alien and Aliens, when I saw it. So that may have helped me enjoy that film a little bit better and not be confused and whatever, like people seem to have been about it. So, I mean, I guess it was okay. Would I see it again? I'm not really sure. I don't really remember too much about like a sci-fi / horror film, which I knew it was going to be at the time. Unlike the Alien, I take that back. I think I had seen parts of Alien, but I hadn't really seen. I'm not sure. I don't think I'd seen the whole thing. And then, I'm sorry. I'm just kind of rambling on here. I guess all I can say is it just seemed okay film, and I guess that's all I can say. KG5BW.
Okay, Jay, thank you. Next, remember I'm going in reverse order. Let's talk about the Tony, NT5TM. You saw the movie, like Jay, a long time ago. What did you think about the plot and your general thoughts about the whole movie? To start off, N5BB. Go ahead, Tony.
This is an authentic Ridley Scott movie, and that's great, and so I thought it had a lot of potential, but I was somewhat disappointed, and I did not have time to watch it again, although I do actually want to give it another chance. Today was too busy with awesome fun radio stuff. The biggest question I had was if androids really just seem to want to kill and mess up their humans, why do they even keep them around? I mean, Bishop was great in Aliens, but in the original Alien, they even had to sneak the artificial person on board because it was just there to kill the rest of the crew. And here, once again, we have David randomly poisoning people, and I wonder what would happen if everyone else died. That seems kind of neat. And likewise, sometimes you have to make the evil a little more subtle. The Wayland or future Wayland-Yutani Corporation just seems like such an awful and destructive place to work. It's hard to understand why anyone would give it their best effort. So, although it was certainly very startling in its appearance and very interesting, I found it kind of hard to deal with on a couple of levels. And so I'll give it another chance, but it was kind of a head-scratcher to me. It just kind of seemed generally, this is generically awful, kind of a dystopian situation. NT5TM.
Okay, Tony. Well, I saw the movie late this afternoon. I don't remember David poisoning anybody. I realize you saw the movie a long time ago, so I won't be too critical here, but do you happen to remember what part of the movie you think he did that?
I thought that he gave the male human of a couple that was in love some sort of black alien slime to drink that was just like what the guy on the opening scene drank before he dissolved. And then I have a vivid, yucky memory of then something growing out of that guy's eyeball. That was kind of weird. But I really thought he gave somebody some of that slime to drink just to see what it would do. NT5TM.
Okay, I don't remember that. I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember that happening. We'll see if anybody else does, because that would change my view of it. David was a bit sneaky. He cut off his video at one point. But I didn't remember him actually doing that. We'll see if anybody else does, because I might be misremembering also. Okay, well, thank you, Tony. Next, let's go to David, W5EBB. David, do you have a philosophical take on this movie? You know, the name of it is Prometheus, which has a certain mythological precedence here. Go ahead, David, W5EBB and 5BB. How about the plot?
Well, thanks for running the net, Bill. And of course I do. I'm expected to provide that, right? And not really mythological, but some might consider it that. But the scene that you're referring to, the poisoning, was at the pool table when Dr. Holloway is on his drinking binge, all depressed that his engineers are dead, so he thinks. And David slips that dollop of black goo into his drink, and that's where it seeds him. So yeah, that was a little bit of evilness on David's part there. Now, I saw Prometheus at the theater when it came out, and I thought it was pretty good, but it didn't really feel like an alien movie. But as time has gone by, I've come to appreciate it more, at least in terms of what they were trying to do, to create an epic story to entice and tease the audience with some interesting questions that aren't really resolved. This week, I went back and watched it twice, first with 3D Blu-ray with the glasses and everything, and then again with the Ridley Scott commentary. And fast forward to the scene with the thousands of vases in the cargo hold, Ridley Scott's commentary, David walks through an area of the ship, sees the collection of capsules or the bombs. They're all viral bombs, and any one of these bombs, if dropped or sprayed over Europe, would probably give it a year, take out Europe, and then spread globally. We don't know half the stuff that's out there, and we wouldn't even know how to begin to stop it, end quote. So the ship is carrying death, and it's all destined for Earth to wipe out humanity. Dr. Shaw wants to know, why would these engineers create us only then to seek to destroy us? What did we do that caused them to be so angry, to hate us? That question is not answered in this movie, nor in the next movie, Alien Covenant. But there are clues. The decapitated engineer is determined by Shaw to be 2,000 years old, and the movie is set in the year 2094. So the engineers were preparing to launch this ship in about 94 AD, the dawn of Christianity and the replacement of the Old Covenant with a new covenant. And I think that's a telling clue to answer the question in this story, why did the engineers hate us and want to destroy us? So near the end, Wayland, when he wakes up, says to Dr. Shaw, "You convinced me that these things made us, then surely they can save us. Save me anyway. Save me from death." That's why he spent, $1 trillion to go on this mission. So Wayland seeks everlasting life, immortality, and expects to find it from these engineers. Engineers who are not gods, but mortal men by DNA, made giants perhaps by a variation of a gene or two. And Dr. Shaw tries to warn him, you don't know, this place is not what we thought it was. They're not what we thought they were. We are so wrong. Wayland doesn't care. He's already made his mind up that he's going to meet his maker. And he chides Dr. Shaw for losing her faith. And when the engineer is finally awakened, Wayland commands David to tell him why I came. Now, the engineer understood what Wayland was seeking, and we quickly see that the engineer's reaction to that request was a very emphatic no. So, Wayland sought to find, extended life through this man, an engineer, an intercessor, an intermediary, and I think this is what angered the engineers and why the engineers were set to destroy humanity on Earth, kind of like Prometheus, the mythological Prometheus, trying to be godlike and live forever. So the engineers hated what humanity on Earth had become, an irreverent and rebellious lot, a failed experiment. Humanity rejected, a single monotheistic God and disobeyed the first commandments, following guidance of false prophets, rebelling against the creator and maker. Now, Ridley Scott doesn't verbally comment on the issue of faith or religious connotation in this movie, which is surprising because that underlies really the themes of what are really biblical narratives, prophecies using analogy to construct an apocalyptic parable, with the final event being more of a reaping than a rapture. But Scott did have this to say. This is about creation and then destruction. You realize what you've done, what you've created is wrong, and you want to wipe it out. Start again and wipe the slate clean. And this is almost precisely what's in the few verses of Genesis 6, just before the Great Flood. It refers to the Nephilim, or giants, who were on the earth in those days, called sons of God, who bore children to the daughters of humans. And they were heroes and warriors of renown. And the Lord saw the wickedness of humankind, and he was sorry that he created humans on earth. And so he said, I will blot out from earth the human beings I created, for I'm sorry that I made them. And then later in Jeremiah 5, it very much sounds like the engineers. And it says, I'm going to bring upon you a nation from very far away, an enduring nation, an ancient nation, a nation whose language you do not know, nor can you understand what they say. Their quiver is like an open tomb. All of them are mighty warriors. So the significant plot themes of Prometheus, which underwent significant rewrites in its development, I think in large parts are just copies of the narratives from the Old Testament. W5EBB.
Well, thank you, David. Yeah, Billy confirmed that you were correct that in the movie that David, the android, did pour the goo in. I remember him doing something there, but for some reason I thought it was a little bit unclear. The actual drink he handed to Charlie Halloway, seemed to me to be perfectly clear. It didn't seem to be tainted by anything. So I guess I thought it was ambiguous, but evidently maybe it's not, because I didn't understand why that David, the android, would want to do that. I didn't see any discussion or description. So maybe something was left out of the final cut that described that better. Anyway, or maybe somebody else can describe something I missed. Anyway, thank you, David. And I saw the religious allusions in the film. I didn't think they were quite that over the top, but maybe they were. Next, let's move to Brenda, WB5OZ. Brenda, what did you think about the plot of Prometheus, the 2012 film? This is N5BB, net control. Go ahead, Brenda.
Thank you, Bill. This is WB5OZL. I really liked the movie, but I'm a huge Aliens fan. In fact, Aliens is probably one of my #1 favorite movies of all time. I've seen it many times. Although this wasn't nearly as good as that. Nothing's as good as that. But, I like the content and that conflict between us and them. Of course, we have an ethnocentric idea. We're the good guys, and they're the bad guys, so we have to destroy them. But, how are we created? In my view, we were created the same way as tigers and hippos, survival of the fittest, and that gives people a rather not so noble nature. We'll kill to get food, we'll kill to take someone else's food or stuff. Often there's just not a lot of niceness there, but why? Because we have to survive. And so they have this idea that these gods came and created humans, and they want to go and find them, and I don't know. I'm not quite sure what they expected out of these aliens. A rich guy expected to have eternal life, which is kind of ridiculous. It's very anti-scientific. And why would they do that for him? I don't know. These are some of the dumbest scientists ever. If you go into an alien cave, you don't test the air by taking off your helmet and breathing it and declaring it to be good. There's so much more there. You need to test it scientifically. And never mind the content of gases. Are there dangerous microbes, viruses, bacteria in there that can hurt us? I just think that's so basic. Why are these people so dumb? But we see this in movie after movie after movie. They go into the cave and they take off their helmets. And other dumb stuff. I like the character of David and the references to the movie Lawrence of Arabia, and I understand he was picked because of his physical similarity to Lawrence of Arabia, which I thought was kind of cool. It was, I think the whole story was overwrought. I just felt exhausted. So much violence, so much negativity, so much heartbreak and danger and fighting. It was almost more than I could tolerate. And a lot of these movies, just not much goodness or niceness in them. Everybody's fighting to survive, and often not very nice. Okay, back to net, WB50ZL.
Okay. Thank you for those comments, Brenda. Next, Tom, KE5ICX. If you're still awake, Tom, what did you think about the plot of this movie? 5BB.
Well, thanks, Phil. Yeah, I'm still awake right now. This film drives me nuts. It's Ridley Scott, who I just think is one of the great directors and cinematographers, for that matter. He creates this visually stunning movie, one of the best I've ever seen, and does literally world building and makes you believe it. You really feel like you're immersed in a real-time, real thing, at least at the beginning. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I can watch it over again just for these pushing shots and the technology. And I know I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but part of science fiction has to be done. You have to be able to convince your audience where your science fiction story is going is legitimate. Anytime you see a cardboard character, a rubber monster, or cardboard set, it's lost. So that part has to be established. That's actually part of the plot. Scott gets into the heady belief that, that man is here for a reason, and it came from out there. As he said, that up here began out there, which is like Battlestar Galactica, which also use religious themes too. But in any case, they decide they're going to go and find the engineers and the creators and all that. That's fine. It seems as though we're going to get something that is better. And we send these idiots to go check on them, the scientists / astronauts / vigilantes / my neighbor across the street to do this mission. They're idiots. So pick into them. I wouldn't care of my dogs. They're so inept. That takes you out of it. After all of this, and by the way, the sets were all practical sets, meaning that they were built. What you see on screen is about 99% of what was actually built. So they make this thing as authentic as they can, and then they got these cartoon characters that populate it. Oh, jeez. So you got that. You get everybody, as Brenda mentioned, taking their helmets off. Is it cold there? I think it might be. Leave the helmet on. It stays warm. Your nose is going to get cold, right? Sure, why not? Just take it off. What else could go wrong? And the guys go up and they find the overnighters, the ones that get left behind. The guy sits there and says, oh, she's a girl. It's a cute little plump. And next thing he knows, he's lost his arm. Idiot. There's a rule in biology. Don't touch stuff with your bare hands. I've seen that. Don't touch your eyes with your bare hands, you idiots. So that was driving me nuts. And they got dumber as time went on. I think there was a low oxygen content inside of the spacecraft, the alien spacecraft. That must have been what it was, and everybody was prone to doing dumb things. So that drove me nuts. The story starts devolving into cliches, things that we've seen before. Immortality, I'll live forever. That's been done a bazillion million times. Looking for God. What does God need with a starship? We've done that a few million times. What else do we have? One thing that is good, that is always interesting, is Ridley Scott likes to deal with the the android and human dynamic. He did that with Blade Runner, which was masterfully done. In this one, David turns out to be really well articulated, although his motivations are a bit strange. And indeed, that may have been lost on me. Now, one thing on the poisoning of the one fellow, whose name I can't remember, who was on the drinking binge. One thing, I may have mentioned this on an earlier net years ago or a while back, but having done stage stuff, this is a bazillion million years ago. I have not done anything like that in years, but when you do stage work and you're an actor, and more specifically, you're the director of anything that involves, say, the act of poisoning someone, such as in a murder mystery, it is your responsibility as director and as the actor to actually visually show that action taking place. To not do so cheats your audience. But a very good direction of this requires that when there's poison involved, that it is so subtle that even the audience may not completely pick up on it. I was in the show 10 Little Indians, and I've seen 10 Little Indians many times, and it is a requirement that when you poison somebody on stage, that indeed you see the act taking place. And it does take place. David offers I forget his name, the drink, and you'll see his finger briefly touches the inside of the glass. It's about a half second. That's it. Glass is in motion when he does so. Go back and freeze frame it, and you'll see that's when he does it, is when he offers him the drink, and finally he holds the drink and then finally drinks the drink. So that's when the poisoning takes place. So just thought I'd make those comments. Anything else about it? Let me think. The ending was convoluted, and as David mentioned, not very well explained. Oh, and one more thing. I'm going to add. All this goes into the plot. It will be far less talky on the next two sections. But one of the things, too, about aliens, I think they did a pretty darn good job with the alien, the engineer, and then some of the aliens that you had there. But when you do humanoids, and I guess they had to because of what it is, the mysticism starts to drop. You don't, you know, when he gets stuck with the, what do they call that thing, the creature that did the, went into the guy's throat type of thing, and they do it with the engineer. The engineer really becomes just another dying character, and he's deposed from the godlike status. Now, I know that's probably intentional, but he looked kind of like an oaf in that particular case, and not really in any sort of experiential position. So, in other words, it's kind of like the rest of the crew there just ended up being another stooge in the massive crew of stooges, just another victim. And that's what ends up happening towards the end, is the death fest. It just turns it into another horror movie towards the end. That bothered me a lot as well. I felt this film started out great, and then it just kind of started going slowly downhill until at the end we're all looking at one another going, what? I don't understand. Okay, that was a lot from me. Probably none of it very valuable. But back to you, Bill, KE5I6.
Thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. It's time for me to give my comments now. Well, I feel very similar to Tom about this movie. It's the presentation of the movie is great by Ridley Scott and everything. Although it just bugged me that all the scenes over that were in the alien underground craft and everything like that were underlit. I mean, they were shining with a flashlight. Why, hundreds of years from now, don't they have bright lights that they would take out and turn on and it would illuminate the whole area like a street light? Why? Well, the reason is, of course, they don't want to show you those things to make it spookier and everything. But, I don't know. As far as being realistic, very non-realistic that way. I mean, this is supposed to be, long in the future, hundreds of years in the future. They got the fancy spacecraft. They got all these other fancy things. They can go to other planets around other stars, and they can't even turn on a bright light so they can see what's going on over there. The other thing, kind of related to what Tom said about how everybody was stupid, is that there's it seemed like they had no crew selection criteria. They just threw people on this thing. They threw a guy on this thing that was was smoking a cigarette inside his spacesuit, his helmet. Okay? This is just beyond the pale. It's just stupid. I don't know why they did that. I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all. They would put that kind of person on that crew. Why didn't they have a clear chain of command? It was very confused, and that also didn't make any sense to me. Another thing is we'll talk about characterizations next, because I hope you realize that you missed the one word she said, that Meredith Vickers was the old guy Wayland's daughter. She says, hello, okay, father, at one point, that one word, like, hello, okay, father. Outside of that, she's just like a company operative, but she's his daughter. Let's see. Like I said, I did not understand the motivations. Well, I'll talk about that in characterization. I'll just say I didn't understand the motivations of the robot about the poisoning thing. That's why it didn't really click with me. Although I saw what happened, something didn't seem right because I didn't understand any motivation for it. Okay, let's move ahead to characterization. The characters and how the director allows them to be portrayed in the movie. Okay, the way they're written, the way they're acted, the way the director does them. The characterization. What did you think, Billy, about the characterization? This is N5BB Afterglow. Oh, before I do this, hold on, Billy. Does anybody want to check into the Afterglow net? We're talking about Prometheus, the 2012 prequel to Alien. This is N5BB. Any late check-ins?
Kilo India 5, Juliet Charlie Mike.
Are there any others?
Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
I'm sorry, Sean, I covered you up. What was your call sign again?
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo.
Okay, any other check-ins to Afterglow? This is N5BB. Okay, let me go to KI5JCM. I'm sorry. I've got things jumbled in my mind. Is your name Thomas? Remind me of your name again. And did you see the movie? And what did you think about the plot? This is in 5BB. Go ahead, KF5JCM.
Yes, the name here is Thomas. Yes, I have seen the movie when it first came out. I think the plot has more holes in it than Swiss cheese. Like, how do you get lost in a cave after getting a digital map of the things in little flying orbs? The movie was so plot-holed, it was hard to follow what little plot there was. Aliens is one of my favorite movies, and this one really disappointed.
Is that all you got, Thomas? If so, please give your call sign.
There's really not a lot more to say. It was dumb, as were the entire... This really should have been a low-budget horror film, as dumb as the people acted. And these people supposedly have science degrees. Yeah, no. KI5JCM, back to you, Net Control.
Very good, Thomas. Sean, KB9SOK. Did you see the movie? And do you want to comment about the plot? This is in 5BB, Afterglow Net.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yes, I did see the movie. Actually, it was the first time I'd seen it. Was yesterday. Of course, I'd seen the original Alien films, and I was a big fan of the original Alien film. It's definitely my top 10 movies, but this one definitely is not. I think it, maybe along the worst of the Alien movies. It was pretty much wash, rinse, and repeat. It's the kind of same story we see in every Alien movie. Nothing really original here. A lot of it I felt was very predictable. I wasn't surprised that the father was on the ship. I kind of figured he was by the comments early on by the alien. And I think the motivation for the, not the alien, but the android, the motivation for the android to poison the guy was that his previous conversation with the old guy was, the old guy told him to do better. So I think the android come to the conclusion that he could turn that guy into an alien, and that was doing better. So I think that was the motivation behind that, but it was very strange, And to me, I agree. These people weren't particularly the brightest. It's like in most horror films, you don't go in the basement, you don't go in the attic. This one was just really disappointing. I felt the original Alien did a much better job of the suspense and, in truly making it one of those films that did truly keep you on the edge of your seat. And to this one, I was just kind of bored for most of it. It just didn't do any of that for me that you would expect from an Alien film. Just very, very bland. And the world, to me, actually, there were parts of that felt good, but there was a lot of parts to me, it seemed, even though it wasn't CG, it almost felt like CG. Unlike the original, where it really felt like he was really on that ship, and it really felt real. This one just seemed to, even if they did use a lot of practical, for some reason it didn't feel that way. And something just seemed off. And, I pretty much echo what most have said. It ain't the worst thing we've seen by far on here, but it I don't know, I was expecting more from it, and was hoping for better, and it wasn't. Back to net, this is KB9SOK.
Very good. Thank you, Sean. Now let's move on to characterization. The characters, how they're written in the plot, how the characters are exposed to us via the acting and directing. What did you think about the characterization, Billy? KF5 PDS and 5BB with Afterglow.
Yeah, the thing about characterization is some characters you started out kind of liking, and then there are things that started happening, I was just like, I don't know. I do like the David character. However, when he started kind of, when he did the whole thing with it, putting in the drink of the alien material, but he had asked scientists, would you go to any lengths to prove your theories? And he said yes. So I think David took that as license to go ahead and do a little experimentation of his own and introduce that into his drink. And he said something like, big things have small beginnings. And then he did that. That was David's justification for doing that. I was trying to read up a little bit on Ridley Scott's take on David, and if I'm not mistaken, he said something about when Weyland died, it released his moral obligation to humans, and that David actually hated humans and hated the engineers, and so, which was kind of, I guess, a mutual animosity, because it seems like the engineers hated humans as well. And the lady who was the captain, Weyland's daughter, she really seemed to have great animosity towards David. That amount of, this, I don't know what to call it. It's just, animosity, I guess, is the best word. They just really had this deep-seated hatred, it seemed like. And it was just really uncomfortable. It made for a pretty hostile environment. But I'm with Brenda. I like how they modeled him after T.E. Lawrence, how he had that fixation on Lawrence of Arabia. I thought that was really an interesting thing. And I think Michael Fassbender would be a wonderful R. Daniel Olivaw if they ever do a faithful Foundation. I know on Apple TV they've got a loosely based Foundation series going on. And I think they missed an opportunity to cast Michael Fassbender as Daniel, but maybe that would have been too on the nose with him playing David. I think David kind of presents himself like a Promethean-type character, introducing the alien material to the humans, almost like the Greek Prometheus stealing fire and bringing it to humans. So I find that classical tie very interesting. And so there's just, I don't know, there wasn't to me like a character that I was super rooting for in this film. They all had very negative qualities to me, and just the whole thing of them going to the alien world and, basically creating the character that we see in the Alien film that we come to, be terrified by in the movies to come. I'm in agreement that it seems very artificial and does not have the visceral quality that the first Alien film had, with the small cast and single scene in the ship. It was like a one-act play. It was like theater. This is very, I don't know, it's very Hollywood, obviously, but I didn't agree with the characters, the two guys that went in and they saw that snake-like character, and he was just like, oh, it's beautiful, let me try and touch it. And it's like, you don't take your helmet off to test the air, and you don't start trying to play with alien creatures that you don't know what they're all about, and he unfortunately learned his lesson the hard way. But I didn't find a lot of likable anything about any character. And if I did, it didn't last very long. So anyway, I'll throw it back to you. This is KF5PDS, back to Matt.
Thank you, Billy. I'm trying to move this along because it's getting kind of late. Now let's move to Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, what did you think about characterization? This is N5BB after Lynette.
This is KG5BZW. I'm kind of with Billy here. I don't really remember that much positive about any of the characters, which also might contribute to the fact that I'm not really remembering the characters, and it has been a while. And I guess I should have taken a look at the Cliff Notes version of the plot, just to try to remind myself. I do remember the characters being kind of stupid, so that's also the other, or at least some of them. The android, Like he was an interesting character, but I don't know much. I can't, and there's not really much I can say. So I'll just hand it over to the next person. Thank you, 530.
Thank you, Jay. Your turn now, Tony. NT510. What do you think about the characterization? This is N5BB. Are you still there, Tony? NT510 and 5BB.
Hey, I have to apologize here. Well, I remember my general thoughts about the movie. I really don't remember much about the specific characters. Before I check out, I did want to really agree with what Brenda said in the previous round. I can't remember everything, but I do remember that kind of exhausted, this was all too over-the-top feeling. When she said that, it really hit a nail on the head for me. I remember that feeling. So I'm going to check out here. Been great to hear everybody, and I just wanted to agree with Brenda about that. NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony. Now let's go to David, W5EBB. What do you think about the characterization, David? This is N5BB, Afterglow.
Well, the only characters I thought were interesting enough to talk about are David, Vickers, and the engineers. So in Ridley's commentary, he says David is a great character because gradually, insidiously, he starts to infect the film. He becomes the real poison in the movie. And I would say if you want to know the difference between sarcastic and sardonic, listen to David's comments. They are sardonic, clever but cruel, mean-spirited with no ironic opposite, as with sarcasm. As an example, when he says to Dr. Shaw, "I didn't know you had it in you. Sorry, poor choice of words." And at the end of the movie, Dr. Shaw demands to have her cross returned to her, which surprises David, and he responds in an incredulous, provocative, and ridiculing tone, "Even after all of this, you still believe, don't you?" As if to hint to Dr. Shaw that her faith and the reason the engineers hate us may be intertwined. So, Miss Vickers, was Vickers a robot? I hadn't even considered that as a possibility until watching the commentary, and Ridley Scott suggested that Meredith Vickers could be a robot. There is an almost sibling rivalry between her and David, and Ridley can be sneaky like that, in a similar way that he provided hints that Deckard in the original Blade Runner might be a replicant, something in his eyes, and it was decades later that it was confirmed that Deckard was in fact a replicant. So the engineers, it became clear that the engineers were not gods. They didn't create us, as the doctors Holloway and Shaw first assumed, but it can be said that they propagated us by sharing their DNA. So the engineers seed planets. That's what they do. That's their job, at least one of them. And after seeding a planet, they may become watchers or monitors of that planet and its inhabitants. But they're not gods. They may be some order of priests or agents or somewhat like angels. They may be angels of mercy and protection on one hand, and on the other hand, angels of death and destruction. And they just vary their roles, across those extremes according to the situation. And Ridley Scott's commentary, but if the engineers are not gods, if it's just us, well, who made them and why? And what's the grand plan? Indeed, what is the grand plan? W5EBB.
Okay, David. Brenda, W5OZL. What did you think about the characterization, Brenda? This is N5BB.
This is W5OZL. A bunch of the characters were really boring and not, I don't even remember their names. They're not worth talking about. But some of the characters were pretty interesting. And these comments about David are quite interesting. He was awfully complex to not be a human being. So, after all this, we still don't have any answers. We went through an awful lot to try and get the answers to our existence, and it's kind of disappointing, frankly. Well, I am quite tired. I'm going to bed. I'm going to sign off. This has been wonderful. Thank you all for your comments. so I will see y'all after a while. This is WB50ZL Clear.
Thank you, Brenda. A very good evening to you. Tom, K5ICX, you still there, my friend? This is N5BB. Characterization.
Thanks, Bill. Well, there were two things I wanted to mention. One is, of course, David, which is the most interesting character of the whole bunch. I thought he was interestingly articulated, and I am a huge fan of Lawrence of Arabia, by the way. It is my favorite film of all time, and I practically can quote whole swaths of dialogue. So David was continuously inserting dialogue from Lawrence himself, which he is kind of emulating throughout the film, which I enjoyed a lot. So I was busy finishing lines to things he was saying to the others. I thought it was pretty cool. The other thing that surprised me, it's not so much a characterization, but Guy Pearce, who plays the elderly Wayland in this. I mean, boy, you talk about playing a completely different character. Pearce is always known and has been like the romantic lead or the flamboyant archetype in films. He definitely will command a camera when he demands it. So I was watching this film and I go, where is he? I can't find him. And then I finally read in the notes here on Wikipedia that he actually played Wayland. And I thought he did a pretty good job under all that makeup, but I thought those two things were rather interesting. Wayland as a character, oh, jeez, what an idiot for a trillionaire. I don't get it. So, again, in this particular case, I found all of the characters wanting, somewhat one-dimensional, and as we've already decided, they have a thick layer of stupid. For scientists, they're dumb. For things going on with each other, it was dumb. Where'd they go? The Santa Barbara Daily Shopper to pick up the guys that were the muscle for this thing? Oh, so stereotypical. If you've got $1 trillion to run a mission, I would think you'd pick out a few people with an IQ above 12 to go on that mission. Really dumb. And then one other thing I didn't mention on the first round, but I will on this one. This is sort of a weird roundabout version of the original Alien movie. We had more aliens. We can't call it aliens because they were all the same aliens. But it kind of pushed what was in the original Alien a little bit, the plot line, at least as far as the characters are concerned. And at least in that film, the characters were, they went on these long missions because they couldn't find anybody else to do it for the mining missions and that. I would think on something like this where you got PhDs on board that it's a more elevated mission, and you're not going to have the kind of angst and stupidity that we saw. So, yeah, that whole thing, the characters were the 555-1212 of this movie. Back to you, Bill, KE5ICX.
Okay, thank you, Tom. It's now time for me to do comments about characterization. This is N5BB. I agree with what Tom and Brendan and some other people have said, that characters are pretty stupid as far as their actions. And again, how did they pick these people to be on a spacecraft? Like I say, you got one guy that's smoking inside his spacesuit, which is the silliest thing I've ever seen. You had the one guy that everybody said, don't take off your helmet. Don't take off your helmet. Okay? Everybody said that. He takes it off. Now, what does everybody else do? They take off their helmets. Why? So they can be as stupid as him? Makes no sense. They should have had some clear protocols. I mean, they're on an alien planet. They think that there's alien life forms there. They don't know if they're safe or not. They had some decontamination things on the spacecraft. Why didn't they follow their protocol when they're out there inside the aliens, lair? Made no sense at all to me. Other things about kind of the characterization. The engineers were too nearly indestructible to me. Okay? Too big, too strong, too evil, too much everything, too over the top. Just too much. Too gray. They're just, what color were they? They were all gray. Different model shades of gray. Was it male or, I guess. We don't know. We only saw one of them, really. I don't know. I didn't like that. At the end, the character of Elizabeth Shaw, it seems like they had to let her live through all that final stuff, although it looked like she couldn't possibly survive. Why did they have to do that? Because they would have to shut the movie down. They want to eke out another 10 minutes. They didn't need to keep Charlize Theron's character, Meredith Vickers, alive. Her dad had already passed away, and why did she need to be around? She was a little bit of evil in her anyway. So they let Elizabeth Shaw survive because she seemed to be more likable. Seemed like she was trying to do the right thing for humanity. And again, the character of David, the android robot, is just I'm kind of conflicted about that. I don't exactly understand that. That's all I got. Okay, Thomas, KF5JCM, you want to make any comments about the characterization? This is N5BB, the Afterglow net.
I think I've already covered my thoughts. They were all idiots. Back to net control.
Yes, sir, Tom. Sean, KB9SOK, what did you think about the characterization? This is N5BB.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, pretty much what everybody else said. They're pretty much idiots. They definitely weren't scientists. It was hard to care about any of them. I do think David was the most interesting character out of the whole thing. At least you did see him kind of go through a change throughout the movie a little bit, even though he was an android. The beginning was, probably one of the better parts. The Lawrence and Arabia references was kind of funny. But yeah, overall, it just, pretty bad characterization. And I would have think that the Giants, they woke this guy up, and, I could see him not being irritated, but, you at least would have thought if, he was being spoken to, he at least would have had a few words to say before killing them. Once again, this is supposed to be an advanced alien race, but yet they acted like basic animals, which just doesn't seem, once again, in a lot of movies we seem to over and over again, they treat aliens like they're idiots. And, obviously, once again, if they can travel through space, do what they do, they can't be total idiots like they act. So that part seemed a little odd. But anyway, to get things moving, this is all I got. Back to net, KB9SOK.
Thank you, Sean. Before we close the net, does anybody have any final comments? Or are there any late check-ins? So please come with your call sign only if you want to make any final comments. This is N5BB.
W5EBB.
Very good. Go ahead, David. This is N5BB.
KE5ICX.
Oh, I'm sorry. David and Tom. Anybody else want to make any final comments? Okay. You go first, David, and we'll let Tom clean it up. final comments, David. This is N5BB, Afterglow Net.
All right, very good, thanks. Just a couple of miscellaneous comments. The opening scene is Iceland. Ridley chose that because of its primordial look. And the valley where they landed is Wadi Rum in Jordan, Wadi meaning valley. T.E. Lawrence, a.k.a. Lawrence of Arabia, passed through Wadi Rum several times during the Arab Revolt of 1917 and 18. I mentioned 3D. This was shot with a 3D camera, so the depth of field looked pretty good, and this is one of the better 3D movies. The digital effects were also modeled in 3D down to the individual pixels, which looked really impressive. Unfortunately, the 3D button provided no improvement for the one-dimensional characters. That's it. Thanks for running the net, Bill. W5EBB.
Touche there, David. Tom, what do you say? N5BB.
Man, how do I follow up after that? The 3D button didn't help the one-dimensional characters. David, the best line of the evening. Oh, so true. I did read something, yeah. I cribbed to look for the cliff notes known as Wikipedia, and there are some comments in there that Ridley Scott actually said it wasn't too hard to do the 3D part. You just got to be careful. You can't go overboard with it, because literally it's like turning a knob and setting the 3D depth of field. So apparently I've never seen it in 3D. In fact, I'm not a big fan of 3D movies because of the fact that they exaggerate it too much. But at any rate, I just wanted to reiterate one thing. I am a huge fan of Ridley Scott. Good and bad films, regardless, all of his films look really good overall. This thing, I thought that the special effects will stand the test of time. I love the idea that they use practical sets, that they built them up, and that practical sets do look fantastic. I know we go into the digital world, and in fact, that looks very good, and it continues to get better. But I like the idea of a practical set and the fact that the actors, when they're good actors and they have a good story, can react and act to them, right down to, shadows and reflections and everything else to go along with it. So I will watch it again. I watched it the first time 10 years ago, 12 years ago, whenever it was. And I'll watch it again. Just because of the visuals with it. The stylistic design features and everything in the film are really first rate, and I think they will hold up over time, much like what happened in 2001. And the effects and the stylistic elements in it have won the test of time. So that's it from me, Bill. Thanks for doing the net this evening. I really enjoyed it. KE5ICX.
Very, very good, Tom. Okay, are there any final comments before I shut this down and move on to what's going to go on next week? Any final comments in 5BB Afterglow.net? It's 11:59. Time to close this thing down. This is N5BB closing the net. We had 9 people that checked in and saw the movie and made comments. Thanks to everybody. Now, Tom, number one, on Friday, we're going to go and watch, if you'd like to, go and watch Mad Max over at Tom Schessler's house in Irving. Before I continue, does anybody need any fills on where Tom's house is or anything about that event? It'll be an outdoor event. Do we have any comments, questions about that in 5BB Net Control? Okay, that event will be at 7 p.m. this coming Friday, October 29th, at Tom Schessler's house in 5HYP in South Irving. He is as far south in Irving you can get. A block away, it would be Grand Prairie. So he's way south Irving. He's not very far from I-30, though. So if you're coming from
has left the building.
That direction, it's not hard. And if you were coming from north or something, you can also always come down Bush Turnpike and get off and go over to Tom's house. It's only a couple miles from there. Okay, so we'll see you then. So my question, Tom, General, is what are we going to do for the afterglow on next Saturday? Are we going to talk about Mad Max, or are we going to do something else? This is N5BB. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, first off, Bill, I have to tell you, the movie we're going to see is actually a television pilot, and it's called Max Headroom, 20 Minutes into the Future. Mad Max is a different film and a completely different thing. The thing is that, yeah, we're going to go and watch the film, and then we'll comment about it on Saturday evening. So it should be fun, and, you know, we've done this before. We've actually gone and spoken about the film. We've gone to the theater and seen films and discussed back and forth, and then actually, like on a Saturday, and then gone back, or on a Sunday, and then the following Afterglow movie night, we talk about it again and formulate even more solid opinions about the film based on others' comments. So, yes, the short answer is we'll watch the film on Friday, or you can watch it online. I'll have the links here if you want to find the links and you're not one of those people that do not have that information. Just send an email to me, Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray KE5ICX@yahoo.com, and I will send you the link. But it's Max Headroom. It is available on YouTube for free. The 1-hour version, I believe, is the British version that is available. Also, you can find it on YouTube. I'm sorry, on Facebook under Afterglow Movie, 2 words, and the link is there as well. So everybody will meet up on Saturday evening after we view the film, or if you don't, and we'll discuss it like we always do, starting at 10:30. That's it, Bill. KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. That shows you how tired I am. Of course it's Max Headroom. Nothing to do with Mad Max. On the paper in front of me, I've got written Max Headroom. 7 p.m. Friday, October 29 at Tom's house. Right in front of my eyes on the paper. But was I looking at that when I opened my mouth? No. We all need to remember, engage brain and then open mouth. I didn't do that. Thank you very much, Tom, and we hope to see a few of you at Tom Schessler's house in 5HYP on Friday. If not, we'll see you next weekend for the Afterglow Net. Good night, N5BB Claire.
Bill and Tom.